Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Art from Fantasia. In this video, I am going to show you how to create Halloween images like this in Photoshop by using these images. And if you want to work on these images, you will find the link in the description below and you can download from there. If you are new at my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more Photoshop tutorials. Without further wasting any time, let's get started. I'm going to start with this image. This is our background image. First select the crop tool by pressing C and crop it like this. Then drag down from the top little bit. Okay, now you can see it looks much better, and then hit enter. Okay, now duplicate the background layer by pressing short key Ctrl plus J, and then press Ctrl plus T to transform it, and then drag up a little bit and then make it bigger, and then move it around and see where it looks good to you, and then hit enter. Next, what I'm going to do is remove the sky from this image because I'm going to replace it to another image, to another sky. Okay, now next, first convert this layer to smart object. Right click on this layer and click on convert to smart object, and now press Ctrl plus G to add this layer into the group. And now make the selection of the sky to remove it. Select the pen tool and make the selection. Okay, press Ctrl plus C to undo that, and now I think I have to remove this house because I don't need that. So now I'm going to speed up a little bit. Now press Ctrl plus Enter to make the selection and click on this layer mask icon at the bottom of the layer panel and create a new solid color layer below this layer. Go to adjustment layer and click on solid color layer and then select the white color and click on OK. Now click on this layer mask icon and press Ctrl plus I to invert it. Now hold Ctrl and click on this layer mask icon to make the selection. Now select the polygon or lasso tool from the toolbar and make sure to click on this half white box icon to subtract the selection from the left side of this image, and then click on image icon on this layer and then press Ctrl plus J to duplicate it and press C and hit enter to copy it, and then press Ctrl plus G to transform and drag it to the left to remove the house woods on the left side. Now right click and click on flip horizontal and then rotate a little bit. You can rotate okay. Just adjust the position and see where it looks good and hit enter. Now click on this layer mask icon at the bottom of the layer panel and then select the soft round brush and change the foreground color white to black to remove the edges, to fix the edges, to blend with the background. And keep paint down the edges to remove these areas. And now decrease the opacity to 70% and keep paint to remove the hard edges to blend with the background. And next what I'm going to do is make this area darker and little bit bluish using curves. Okay, now it looks good to me. Now go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon at the bottom of the layer panel and select curves. Now first clip it to the below layer by clicking on this icon and now create a 3 points on this line. First on the middle, and second there, and third there. Now drag down this line a little bit to make the area darker. Okay, okay, now it looks good. So now click on RGB and select the red, and click on the middle of this line and drag down a little bit to add the cyan. Okay, now again click on red, and now click on green, and again drag it down. Now you can see the blue color appearing on this area. Now drag the sky on this image and adjust the size and the position of the sky. First I'm going to make the sky a little bit bigger and drag it to the right side, and now you can see it looks good to me, and then hit enter. And next what I'm going to do is add the mountains on this image. First drag down the sky layer below the group layer and rename it sky or whatever you want. Now drag the mountains on this image and drag down a little bit, and make the mountain bigger and drag it to the right side, and just move it around and see where it looks good to you, and just hit enter. Okay, next what I'm going to do is make these mountains darker and little bit bluish using curves, and using the same method that I used before, curves. Okay, now it looks good, and just hit enter. Now go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon and select curves, and first clip it to the below layer by clicking on this icon and drag this line and drag it down this line from the top to make this mountain darker. So now click on middle point of this line and drag down a little bit to make it more darker, to make the mountain darker, and just follow my steps to achieve the same result as mine. Okay, next click on RGB and select the red and drag down this line from the top and the middle as well. So now click on green and drag it down from the top and the middle. Now you can see there's too much blue, so now click on the blue and drag down. Now it's getting darker. Okay, so now I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. Click on the RGB and drag it up a little bit to make it brighter. Okay, now again, now it seems fine. Now click on RGB and select the green and drag up a little bit to make it lighter, and now go to blue, click on blue as well and drag up. Okay, now it's getting much better. Okay, now finally select the red and drag up a little bit. Okay, now you can see it looks much better. Okay, now go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon at the bottom of the layer panel and select hue and saturation. Now click on master and select the greens. Now this will only affect the green, and bring the saturation slider to the left to decrease the saturation, and then bring the lightness slider to the right to increase the brightness little bit. Okay, now it looks good. So now hold alt and click on the middle of these two layers to clip the hue and saturation to the below layer. Okay, now hold shift and left click and select these three layers and press Ctrl plus G to add these layers to the group. And now I remove the sky from the mountains layer. First select the mountains layer and then click on mask icon at the bottom of the layer panel. Select the brush opacity to 100% and hardness to 90 to 80%, and make sure to change the foreground color to black, and then paint on the sky to remove it. Okay, now so now I'm going to fix the edges later, and now click on group 1 to expand it. Now select these two layers by holding shift and left click, and then right click on the layer and click on convert it to smart object, and then click on layer mask icon and select the brush hardness 40 to 60% and opacity to 100%, and remove the edges to blend with the mountain layer. Okay, next add the house on this image, and if you like this tutorial, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more tutorials, for more Photoshop tutorials. Okay, now it looks really good. Now drag the house on this layer. Okay, now hit enter and make sure to drag this house layer on the top of these layers, and then press Ctrl plus G to add this layer into the group and rename it to house or whatever you want, and then press Ctrl plus T to transform it and make the house little bit smaller. Okay, and then hit enter. So I think I have to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, but just press Ctrl plus T to adjust the size and the position wherever you like, and then just hit enter. Okay, now select this layer in group 1 and press Ctrl plus T to transform it and make it bigger, and drag up a little bit, and now you can see it looks good to me, and then hit enter. Okay, now I'm going to match the color and the brightness of this house, and then paint some lights on the windows. And first what you have to do is simply hold alt and click on the curves above the group 1, and then drag the curves layer above the house layer and then clip it to the below layer by holding alt and click on middle of these two layers. Now you can see it's too dark. Double click on the curves and RGB, select the red, and drag up this line little bit, and then click on green and drag up this as well too. Now you can see it looks pretty good. Now again go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon, and then select the hue and saturation. First clip it to the below layer, and then make sure to check the colorize box, and then bring the hue slider to the yellow or whatever color you want, and then drag the saturation slider to the right to increase the saturation, and drag the lightness slider to the right as well to increase the brightness of the color. Go to blend modes, and I'm going to select the overlay, and you can experiment with all these blend modes here and see which one is best work for you. And then I'll press Ctrl plus I to invert it and select the soft round brush, hardness 10 to 30% and opacity to 100%, and keep changing the size of the brush. Okay, now make sure to change the foreground color black to white by pressing X key, and then simply paint on the windows. So now I'm going to speed up a little bit. Okay, if you think this is taking too much time, and you can simply select the lasso tool and or pen tool and make the selection of the windows, and then just take a brush and then paint on the selected area, and you don't have to worry about other areas because this will only paint in the selected area. Okay, now I'm about to finish painting lights on the windows. And if you don't want to paint lights all of the windows, you can leave some of them. I just painted all of the windows. Okay, next what I'm going to do is paint some shadows on this house using exposure adjustment layer. Go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon. Click on exposure, and then first make sure to clip it to the below layer by clicking on this icon, and then bring the exposure slider to the left. Now you can see it's getting darker. Okay, now I'm going to leave it there, and now press Ctrl plus I to invert it, and then rename it shadows or whatever you want. Okay, now zoom in and select the brush. Hardness 0 and opacity to 100, and then just paint the shadows where you think light will not hit. If you think shadows are too dark, you can simply change the opacity of the brush and then paint it, or you can erase the shadows with a 10 to 30% brush and just erase the shadows, make them lighter. And now you can see it's getting lighter. I'm removing the shadows where it's too dark. Now what you have to do is simply paint the shadows where light will not hit. Okay, again now I'm going to speed up a little bit. Okay, now you can see I'm about to finish painting shadows. So now I'm going to paint highlights using exposure. So now again go to adjustment layer by clicking on the half circle icon at the bottom of the layer panel. Click on exposure. So first clip it to the below layer by clicking on this icon, and this time bring the exposure slider to the right to make the house brighter, because now I'm going to make the house brighter to paint the highlights in the house. So bring the exposure slider to the right, and now you can see it's getting brighter. Okay, now you can see it looks much better, and you can play with all these slider and see where it's best to work for you, and then leave it there. Okay, now third one. Okay, I'm leave it there and then see this slider. Okay, it's getting a little bit dark. Okay, now I'm going to leave it there. Now press first rename it highlights, and then press Ctrl plus I to invert it. And now zoom in and select the soft round brush, opacity to 100%, and change the foreground color black to white to paint the highlights on the house. And you can simply paint with the 10 to 30% opacity brush, but I'm going to first paint with the 100% opacity brush, and then change the foreground color to black, and then remove the highlights where it's too bright. Okay, now I'm going to speed up a little bit, and take your time to paint the highlights. Okay, now I'm about to finish painting the highlights on the house. Next, I'm going to add the glows around the windows. Okay, first you have to find this layer that you have painted the lights on the windows. Okay, for me, this one. Now hold Alt and click and drag above the highlight layer, and then change the blend mode to normal, and then zoom in and see if you miss these areas like me. If you did not, then you're good to go. Okay, and now change the foreground color to white, and then simply paint with the brush to fill out these areas. Okay, this window as well. Okay, now change the blend mode to pin light. Go to blend mode and click on pin light, and you can choose any other blend mode if you like. So now go to filter and blur, click on Gaussian blur, and now you can see glow around the windows. So move this slider around and see where it looks good to you, and then click on OK. I think notes looks good to me. I'm going to leave it there, and then click on OK. Okay, next paint some fog on the background so it looks more dramatic. So now create the new black layer above this group 1. Now click on create new layer icon at the bottom of the layer panel, and then rename it to fog or mist, whatever you like. So next select the brush, and if you don't have these fog brushes, you can download from internet. Search on Google fog or mist brushes for free, and if you want to download some high quality brushes, then you have to buy it. Okay, now hold Alt and click on the sky, on the bright area, to take the sample of the color, and then simply paint the fog with the brush. If you don't have these brushes, you can paint with the soft round brush, and you can also use the cloud filter to paint the fog. But fog is not appearing on the background because of the curves layer. Now what you have to do is simply drag this fog layer above the curve layer, and then hold Alt and click on middle of these two layers to unclip it, and now you can paint the fog on the background. If you want to erase the fog from the some areas, so just select the eraser tool and then erase it from the area that you want, but you can erase with the brush tool as well. So what you have to do is simply hold the tilde key and just erase it. This way you don't have to Select the eraser tool and switch back to brush. If you release the tilde key, you can paint with the brush, and if you hold the tilde key, you can erase it with the brush as well. So you don't have to select the eraser tool. You can paint and erase it with the brush. So now take your time and paint the fog on the background. Okay, now it looks good to me. Now change the color of the fog to blend with the background. Go to adjustment layer and click on hue and saturation. Now clip this hue and saturation layer to the below layer by clicking on this icon. Okay, now I'll bring the hue slider to the blue color to match the fog with the background, and then bring this saturation slider to the left to increase the saturation, and then bring this lightness slider to the left a little bit to make the fog darker. As now you can see, it looks much better. Now click on the fog layer and then select the fog brush, and then again paint the fog, or if you want to erase it you can erase as well. Okay, now take your time and paint the fog. Okay, now I'm going to speed up a little bit. Now I'm going to paint some fog on the house as well to blend with the background. First create a new layer above the house group layer, and then select the fog brush opacity 10 to 20%, and now paint some fog on the house. Okay, now it looks better. Now again click on this fog layer and paint or erase. I think it looks too strong. Now I'm going to erase it, some of the fog. Okay, now it's getting much better. Next I'm going to add a photo filter above the top layer to give this image bluish look. Okay, now I'm done with the painting. So now go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon, and then click on photo filter. Now select the cooling filter 80 and the value to 25. Okay, now you can see this effect. It's looking good. And now click on the house layer and then press Ctrl plus T and then make it a little bit smaller. Okay, now as you can see, it looks much better. Okay, next what I have to do is add the shadows on the ground to make it more realistic. Okay, and now expand this house group layer and then click on the house layer, and then press Ctrl plus J to duplicate it, and then right click on this layer. Now click on the rasterize layer and then hold Ctrl and click on this layer to make the selection. Now fill this selection with the black layer by pressing Ctrl plus backspace, and then press Ctrl plus T. Now right click and now click on flip horizontal, and now drag it down this shadow layer and align the shadow with the house. Drag up a little bit. Okay, now it looks good to me. And now Right click, now click on distort and drag to the left from the bottom. Okay, first you have to know where the light's coming from, and then correct the direction of the shadow according to the light. Okay, now you can see with the shadow this image looks more realistic. Now take your time and correct the shadow. Okay, now hit enter. Now right click on the shadow layer, convert into smart object, and then go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, radius 9.4. Now click on OK, and then press Ctrl plus J to duplicate the shadow layer. Now first click on this mask icon at the bottom of the layer panel, and then select the soft round brush opacity 10 to 20%, and then make this area a little bit lighter. Okay, now press Ctrl plus J to duplicate the shadow layer. Now double click on the smart filter to open this Gaussian blur tab, and then set the radius to 2.6, and then click on OK. Now click on this mask icon on this layer, and then lighten this shadow area a little bit. Make sure to change the foreground color to black. Okay, now you can see shadows getting much better. Change and this shadow layer blend mode to soft light, and keep this shadow layer blend mode to normal. Okay, now make the shadow a little bit lighter, it's too dark. Okay, now take your time and fix the shadows. Okay, now I'm going to speed up a little bit. Okay, now you can see it looks much better with the shadow. Now zoom in and make this area darker because it's closest to the surface. Select the soft round brush and make sure to change the foreground color to black. Then paint shadows on this area to make it darker. So now I'm about to finish painting the shadows on the surface. So next I'm going to paint again some shadows on the house. First you have to select the shadow layers on the house that you created before to paint the shadows on the house. Okay, it looks like I select the wrong layer. Okay, now just press Ctrl plus Z to undo this. You have to select the shadow layer. Now paint the shadows on this area because it's light will definitely won't hit on these areas. So on these areas you have to paint the shadows to make the image, to give this image more detail, so it looks more realistic. So now you have to find the areas where light will not hit and then paint the shadows on those areas. Okay, now you can see it's making more sense. Okay, now you can see this area looks much better. So let's find another area where light will not hit, and then paint some shadows on this area. Now you can see this area is too bright, so let's paint some shadows on this area too. Okay, now I'm almost done painting the shadows on the house and the surface as well. So next I'm going to remove the edges on on the mountain, so you can see these edges. So first you have to find the layer of the mountains. Okay, now click. So now click on the mountain and let's see. Oh no, not this one. That's a poly. Okay, this is, no, that's a group. Expand this group and then click on this mountain there. And now you have to select the brush. Uh, Press B to select the brush and then right click and then expand this dry media brushes folder, and then you have to select the Kyle's Ultimate Pastel brush. Now, okay, this is the brush. So you have to select this brush and then opacity 200%. Now you have to just paint on these edges and make sure to change the foreground color to black, and then remove these edges with the brush. Okay, now you have to just paint on the edges to remove the edges. Now you can see. Now you can see it's getting much better. Okay, now take your time and remove these edges. And now as you can see, these edges are looks much better. So now zoom out and see the whole image what it looks like. Okay, now you can see the image looks good. Now I'm going to change the color of the sky to a little bit bluish. First select the sky image layer and then go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon and select the hue and saturation. Check this colorize box and then bring this hue slider to the blue to blend the sky with the background, and bring this hue bring Bring the saturation slider to the right to increase the saturation and see what it looks like. Okay, no, it's too much voice. So decrease the saturation. I don't need that. So now play with this lightness slider and see. But I think I'm going to leave it there because it looks good to me. Maybe it's too much blue, but I'll fix it later. Now again select the fog layer and then select the brush by pressing B and change the opacity 20 to 30% and change size as well. So now I'm going to erase some of the fog from this area by holding tilde key. If you release the tilde key, you will paint with the brush, and if you hold it, you will erase the fog on the area. Okay, now take your time and paint or erase it, whatever you like. And now you can see the whole image looks amazing. Okay, I think I have to paint some shadows on the house door as well. Okay, now first paint the fog. Okay, now zoom in and select the house layer. Okay, this is the house and this is the shadow layer. Now select the soft round brush, opacity to 100%, and now paint shadows on the house door and the right side a little bit to give it more detail. If it's too dark, then decrease the opacity and erase it on this area. Okay, I think this area as well. Okay, now you can see it looks more realistic. Just find yourself the areas where the light will not hit and then paint shadows on those areas to give the image more detail. And now zoom out and see what's going on. Okay, now it looks good to me, and next I'm going to add pumpkin on this image. Now drag the pumpkin into the Photoshop. So place this layer above the group 1 curves layer and drag up a little bit, and it's too big. Okay, now right click and then convert into smart object. Press Ctrl plus T to end. Make this smaller, it's too big. And now make the selection of the pumpkin using pen tool, or you can use lasso, polygon or lasso tool as well. So now select the pen tool by pressing P, and now make the selection of the pumpkin. To make the selection, press Ctrl plus Enter and then click on this layer mask icon at the bottom of the layer panel, and then select the brush by pressing B and hardness 90 to 98% and opacity to 100%, and then fix these edges. You can see it does not look good. Just erase it. Okay, you can see now it's getting better. On the left side as well. Okay, now create new layer and then select the stem tool and then hold Alt and click to take the sample, and you have to remove the finger on this edge. Okay, now it's all looks good. Now select both layers by holding shift and then right click, convert into smart object. Now zoom out and press Ctrl plus T and make it smaller. It's too small, make it a little bit bigger. Oops, it's getting small. Okay, now drag this here. Now make it a little bit bigger. Okay, now I'm going to place the pumpkin here, and you can place it wherever you like. Okay, I think it looks good to me. Now I'm going to leave it there. Just hit enter. Next, what you have to do, add the shadows on the left side and some highlights on the right side to give it more depth, to make it more realistic. And you can add some glows on the eyes and the teeth. Okay, first to add the shadows, you have to go to adjustment layer and click on exposure. Okay, now you have to select the exposure and then bring the exposure slider to the left. First clip it to the below layer and then bring this exposure slider to the left to make the pumpkin darker. Okay, now you can see now it looks good. Now press Ctrl plus I to invert it and first zoom in, and now select the soft round brush, opacity to 100%, and paint some shadows on the left side, because you can see light will not hit on this area. To erase the shadows, change the foreground color black to white by pressing X key, and to paint the shadows, change the foreground color black to white, and you can decrease the opacity to paint the shadows lighter. Okay, now you can see it's looking good. Okay, next what you have to do, paint the highlights on the right side. Now you can see I'm done with the shadows. I go to adjustment layer by clicking on this half circle icon at the bottom of the layer panel. Select exposure again. This first clip it to the below layer. This time bring the exposure slider to the right to make the pumpkin brighter. Okay, now again press Ctrl plus I to invert it and select the soft round brush, opacity to 100%, and change the foreground color to white and paint some highlight on this area. Okay, now decrease the opacity and you have to change the foreground color to black by pressing X key and erase the highlight where highlights looks too bright to you. Okay, now it's getting better. Okay, When you're done with the painting highlights on the pumpkin, next what you have to do is match the color of the pumpkin with the background to make it look more realistic. Now you can see I'm pretty much done with the painting highlights on the pumpkin. To match the color, you have to go to the adjustment layer by clicking on the half circle icon at the bottom of the layer panel. Select the hue and saturation. First clip it to the below layer by clicking on this icon and then check this colorize box. Okay, now you can see it's already looking good. So now play with these three sliders to make it more realistic. Maybe you have to increase the saturation a little bit. Okay, it looks good to me now. Okay, I'm not going to change it anymore. I'm going to leave it there. Next, I'm going to add some glow on the teeth and eyes as well. So now what you have to do is find the layer with the lights that you painted on the windows. Okay, now let's see which. Click on expand the house group layer and then drag it down. Okay, now this is the one. Yep, this is the one. Now what I'm going to do is hold alt and drag down above the pumpkin layer to add the lights on the teeth. Okay, now that's a pumpkin layer. Now hold alt and drag down. Now fill this layer mask with the white by pressing alt plus backspace. If your foreground color is white, then press Ctrl plus backspace. Change the blend mode to normal and then clip it to the below layer by holding alt and left click. Okay, now press Ctrl plus I to invert it and paint some glows on the teeth and the eyes. Increase the opacity to 100% and change the foreground color to white. Okay, now paint some glows on the eyes and the. I think I have to change the blend mode to overlay. Now it's looking good. I'm going to leave it there. Now press Ctrl plus J to duplicate this hue and saturation layer. Change the blend mode to pin light. Okay, now go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and move around the radius slider and see where it's best to work for you. And I'm going to set it to 6.4 and click on OK. If it's too bright, then decrease the opacity to 50%. And now zoom out and see the whole image. Okay, now it looks amazing. So now zoom out and I think I have to work on the highlights and the shadows of the pumpkin to give it more detail. Now you can see it does not looks right. Okay, now select the highlight layer of the pumpkin and paint some highlights on the top of the pumpkin, just little more. Okay, now select the shadow layer and double click on the shadow layer. Bring this exposure slider to the left to make the shadows a little bit darker. And now I can select the brush and paint the shadow on the left side to make it a little darker. Okay, now decrease the opacity and change the foreground color to back to erase it. Okay, now it's getting much better. Now it looks good to me. To paint the shadow, change the foreground color to white. Now double click on this exposure highlight layer. Make the highlights a little bit brighter too. And bring the exposure slider to the right a little bit to increase the brightness. Okay, now it's looking good. Now select all these pumpkin layer by holding shift and left click, and then press Ctrl plus G to add these layer into the group, and then rename it to pumpkin or whatever you like. And I think you will see a little bit difference between this image and the final image that you will see in the end of this video, because I recreated this image for this tutorial, and I make this tutorial short as I could. And if you like this tutorial, then leave a like and comment below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more amazing Photoshop tutorials. And you can do final adjustment using camera raw filter to make this image more dramatic. And if you like, you can leave it there as well. Okay, that's it. So this is the end of this video, and if you like, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon, and see you soon in the next video. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.